I'm Dean Newland, and welcome to Leadovation. Reimagine, facilitate, flourish. This podcast is dedicated to the art and science of innovative leadership. Through insightful interviews with industry experts, I bring you cutting-edge strategies and experiences of innovative leadership, helping you think differently, act strategically, and achieve remarkable results. Join me as I provide insights and tools that empower you to make smarter decisions, forge meaningful relationships. Welcome to Leadovation. Welcome to today's episode, where we dive deep into the fascinating world of intuition, healing, and the transformative power of emotional intelligence. My guest is Sally Reid, who has profound near-death experiences that have completely reshaped her understanding of life and her unique abilities. From an early age, Sally could astral project, and since then, she has uncovered intriguing links between ADHD, intuitive abilities, and how energy can be harnessed for healing. In my conversation, Sally shares her journey and sheds light on a critical problem we face today: the dismissal of children's innate intuition and emotional intelligence. I would also suggest that same dismissal is happening with people who are a lot older running companies. Many children with heightened sensitivity and adults, such as those with ADHD, possess intuitive gifts that are often overlooked. This disconnection from emotion and intuition can lead to confusion, frustration, and even physical ailments. But according to Sally, there is hope, and she offers several solutions, i.e., cultivating emotional intelligence from a very young age by teaching children how to recognize and possess their emotions, understanding and working with the connection between emotions and physical health, embracing energy work and quantum alignment to facilitate personal healing and transformation. And in this eye-opening, eye-popping discussion, that will leave you rethinking how we approach intuition, emotional intelligence, and the unseen forces that shape our lives, Sally really digs into all of this and much, much more. Sally Reid on the Leadovation podcast. Sally, it's great to have you on the show, and I want to start off with a question, which is, you mentioned in your information that you've had a couple of near-death experiences, that the way you describe it, it seems to have caused a pivot in your life. Would you mind telling us what happened, and also what occurred to you during or after that experience that now leads you to the work that you're doing today?
Well, the first near-death experience was me on an operating table in, I won't tell you what year because that might make you figure out how old I am, but it was, just to say, it was a long time ago, and they were using ether.
Okay.
So
you were an infant.
I was an infant, yes.
You were prenatal.
Yes, I was not even thought of yet. That's how long ago it was.
Okay.
And so,
all fun aside, and we were playing on this one, are you talking about this physical body you had a near-death life experience? Okay. Because the way you were starting to talk about it, I'll begin to think that you were telling us about a former lifetime.
Yeah, it was this one.
All right. Fair enough. Keep going.
It was this one. So here's what happened. It's fairly classic, how you hear about, God is real. I don't need to go through the nuts and bolts, but I think what's more interesting is the outcome of this. The outcome of this very young human being able to transition and then transition. And by the way, I was barely verbal. I was verbal, but not that articulate. I was that young, and nobody believed me at the time. Nobody believed me that it happened. So I just, okay, then it didn't happen. You know how you gaslight children. You did in the 60s. But it was, the outcome was I was able to so easily, and everybody's talking about astral projecting. And everybody was talking, I could pop out of my body. That was back before the MMR vaccine. It was before all the other. I got every childhood disease known to man, all of them. And so while I was suffering from mumps or chickenpox or whatever the thing that I happen to have, whooping cough, that one's bad, by the way, that one's really bad. I could get myself out of my body. So I didn't know how to physically feel the pain. I could do the transcending that the monks are talking about. I literally, I knew how to chant myself out of my body like you hear the monks doing it. It was intrinsic knowledge that I must have gotten from my near-death experience. I could astral project out of my body when my parents put me to bed too early and I wanted to see what they were up to in the living room when mom and dad were having a party. I could get out of my body, walk down the hall and see that. And I thought this was normal.
So everybody you thought did the same thing.
I thought everybody,
All your friends at school, all your kids on the playground.
You expect to find in others the things you have in yourself. You feel that you are one of the group, right?
Right.
I didn't know that wasn't normal.
So I'm curious about the sequence of this with this near-death experience. You're a young child in the 60s. You're on the table. You astral project. You're outside of your body.
Well, the first thing that happens is you rise above your body and you're looking down. That's pretty standard with everybody.
Right.
At least so far, I've noticed it twice with myself.
But did you have that ability prior to this event?
I cannot remember. I was younger than 3. It's very difficult to
really
remember.
young. So you may have come into this body, this life with that skill, who knows? But nonetheless, it became aware to you at that point.
I could have. I do. My earliest childhood memory is learning how to crawl. That is my earliest one.
Wow.
I do. Oh, no. It was probably simultaneous. It was right around 6 to 7 months because I remember the day that language turned on in my brain when it switched between blah, 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 blah to, hi, honey, are you awake yet? It's a moment. It snaps. And you can see it in your children or your grandchildren. Suddenly they really lock into you. And they start turning their head and listening because they're like, I want people to know who have children. Little pitchers do have very big ears and they start very young. So
Yes.
Everything you say around them is recorded.
Yes.
Which is why you see these cute little videos of these teeny toddlers going, damn it. You've seen them, right?
Yes. Yes. Or worse.
Yes, or worse. Hey, we're recording.
Of course. We're going to keep this a G-rated conversation.
Yeah.
So you're young, you pick up this skill, you think everybody else has it. When did you realize this was not what every kid on my block was able to do?
I hate to say this. I was a grown adult human.
So you walked around thinking that everybody knew how to do what you did. But when you told your friends and your family and you said, hey, guess what? While I was on the table, I kind of flew around the universe a little bit. And they go, oh, yeah, that's cute. That's sweet. You're just being creative. Here, have a doll. But
I never talked about it again.
That was it because you felt shut down?
Mm-hmm.
And it wasn't until you were an adult that you started to gain confidence in this skill? Or what was it that got you to start showing up with it?
It was AT&T. And AT&T, do you remember when it was a new service at the time, call waiting and caller ID?
Yes.
And my first response was, why do people need that? Because when the phone would ring, I would hear in my head who it was.
Before you picked up?
Before I picked up.
Is that still the case today?
No, I don't. I turned a lot of them off because, it's like tuning a radio. You don't want to play all the bands at the same time. You want to tune it to a station. So I tune it to the station.
Sally, I would think that, but you still have some of these skills, obviously, because
if I want to, yeah.
So you can modulate it.
I can change it.
You can will it to happen.
Yeah, right. And it happens. You can also, this is for every human, we can also do settings on what we want to notice and what we don't want to notice. And here's an example of that. You know how, like, when you want a new car, or you just bought a new car and then you see 50,000 cars just like it,
Uh-huh.
or that's a setting. You set a setting. So you can set a noticing setting, whether when you want to notice something. For example, this weekend I was at a conference and my cell phone had an unfortunate incident with water, and that tends to be hard on
So
cell phones.
I love the way you sort of said that. It had an unfortunate encounter with water, meaning that you dropped it into a lake or something?
No, my water bottle fell over and soaked
Okay.
it, but it's the same outcome. And I knew I had a meeting at 10 a.m. outside the conference that I needed to get on. You know how we do, right?
Yeah, yeah.
And literally at 2 minutes before 10, I stepped up, walked out the door, and asked, what time is it? Because I had that setting in my brain to tell me when the time was. And I was able to run over and grab my computer and go in a little alcove and have the meeting, like we do when we're at conferences, right? So it was cool.
So you will the setting, you will the focus of what you want to perceive.
One can. I specifically do
You
it, but
do.
you
Yeah,
can too.
we all do. So you're saying this is for all of us, but you saying
This is
this
a
is something that
universal
you've
human
gotten
ability.
good at.
Yeah.
I would wonder if people feel intimidated by you
Yeah.
because they feel exposed. We can't hide.
No, here's the deal. You know how I said I have settings?
Yes.
I keep, okay, there's a TMI setting that I keep, and it's like I don't want to go through your inbox, and I don't want you to go through mine. So I have a really big rudeness thing. Like,
Yeah.
that's
Yeah.
rude. Doing anything without permission. You're
Understood.
sovereign. I mean, that's rude. I've been married to the same man for 35 years, and I never get into his stuff. Not without
Really? But
permission.
doesn't he one time want to get
Oh, yeah.
insights into himself that you might provide?
Thank you. That's what you do. Like any relationship, you ask permission, and you don't do anything until you're invited. You don't come to your spouse and say you should and you have to. That's disrespectful. You simply wait until they're ready, or you ask them, "Are you ready?" You don't. That's any
Mm,
respectful relationship.
I
That's
agree.
not
I
just
agree.
me, right?
But I'm wondering, like, if you are in a conversation with people that you may never meet again, do you sometimes pick up on things
And I bite my
and you
tongue
never
very
share it? You
hard.
never share anything. You kind of
And
keep it mom's a word.
I also keep it off as much as possible.
Okay. Okay.
You can, just like a radio, you can turn it on and off.
So let's
And
get it.
that's one of the skills I teach for highly sensitive people, how to turn it on and off.
Got it. So let's talk about definitions for a second. You mentioned the fact that you're a psychic in your materials here that I have before me, highlighted in yellow. What's the definition between being a psychic and being intuitive?
Not much. Semantics.
Because we use the word, I think intuition has become a little more accepted, a little less woo-woo in mainstream culture. We hear CEOs of companies saying, yes, I use my intuition to make decisions, and they're
You
no
want to know
longer
something?
seen as what?
Here's something really cool.
What?
ADHD and intuition tend to go hand in hand. And many, many
Mm,
top execs have ADHD.
ADHD. Do you know why that is?
Um, Not offhand. I mean, I'm sure there's some doctor out there that's figured out why that is, but it's a sensitivity. Um, excuse me. I'm sure you can edit that out. It is a sensitivity in the way you receive information. It's a difference. And there is a very wise doctor named Elaine Aron who did extensive studies on dopamine receptors. And that's one of the hallmarks of ADHD is the way you receive dopamine differently in your brain, which is why transitions are so hard for people with ADHD. Just do
Mm,
the task. That's a training aspect. It's not, you have to learn to override that resistance. And every successful ADHD person has learned to override the transition resistance. Like, you have to do a task, oh, just do it for 5 minutes. And then, you do it. That's very common. But one of the other things that's interesting is because you receive information differently and process it differently, it allows you to receive to the normies what looks like unusual information, but it's not. I mean, we don't, can you see radio waves? Can you see the microwaves? No, but they're out there. People who have ADHD are frequently known as HSPs, highly sensitive people. It's a spectrum like autism. And the reason people are so comfortable with the word intuitive or intuition is because it's just like there's people who can sing, and then there's Beyonce Knowles and, Pavarotti and people who can sing. And that's the only difference, is the access to the gift on command, on will.
So you said something interesting, access to the gift.
Mm-hmm.
Ergo, we all have it. And ADHD people, to your point, maybe can get in touch with it easier than most.
A lot of people probably have said this to somebody who has attention deficit or has a neurodivergent mind. If you were organized, you'd be dangerous, kind of a thing, because you are so, probably, right?
As I look around my desk.
Right? So the thing is, the issue that so many people are having who are neurodivergent, which is why I specialize in working with them, is that they're attempting to do things the normie way rather than their way. And I help them gain access to the tools that are their way.
That's poignant. Let's just sort of simmer on that one, ladies and gentlemen. Pull off the side of the road. That was big, because what it's saying to me is not just for those who are hypersensitive and intuitive, or even ADHD folks out there, to find your own way. But man, that's a metaphor for all of us, is it not? I mean, trying to fit in, yes, we have to be appropriate and respectful with good emotional intelligence, but how often do we squelch our own desires, ideas, thoughts, feelings, because it doesn't seem to be quote unquote appropriate?
Yeah. There's areas of being appropriate. And plus, it's very common for somebody who is neurodivergent to misidentify the emotions that they're having, the reason they're having them. Like, for example, if you are having a great deal of inappropriate sexual urges, did you know that there might be an issue with you wanting to have a creative outlet because they come from the same center
place.
of the body? Oops.
That's good. That's good. So, all right. So you're saying that being a psychic and being intuitive are somewhat cousins to each other. ADHD may have some role to play in this as well. Um, let's create some practical ways in which we could use your wisdom. How do you help people in the skills that you have that somebody listening may go, that's a great idea, I should try that?
Let me clarify what you're asking for. Do I have a tip or a trick?
Correct. I'll just get right to the point. You did for me.
All right. One of my favorite things, and this is something, in fact, I just did a TikTok video on this. By the way, I love doing TikTok. I'm the boomer on TikTok, but I just did a TikTok video on this. You know how when you come to a problem, a setback, a problem, right, an issue.
Yeah.
You hit an issue. The first thing you're going to do is fall into an emotional pit around it, right? Did you know that you can avoid that? And this is what a lot of very, very successful, quote unquote, intuitive top execs have already learned. And if you're listening, you're nodding your heads now. Emotions about it don't do a damn bit of good. You acknowledge that you have them and say, next. That is my biggest tip or trick about anything that is a big change. Like, oh shit, I just wrecked my car. Or, oh gosh, my phone is soaking wet. There's nothing.
No,
My
no,
favorite
you
one
had
is
an encounter with water.
an encounter. My favorite one is I was at, don't ask me why, I was at the Harley Davidson rally in Lachlan, Nevada, and my cell phone dropped in the porta potty.
Oof.
And it was, and if, that's a big rally and it was full. So,
Dear me.
and that's literally what I said. Oops, that one's done. And just, that was the end of it. And I felt maybe 10 seconds of, aw, I like that phone. And then that's the end of it. I guess I'm free from being contacted until I get around to getting a new phone.
I love this, and I love the way you're able to quickly pivot or reframe or any other technical term that you might use for this. Um, you move through the emotion quickly. Fantastic. Here's my question, though, on this. What I understand about intuition, at least from myself and from others and that which I have read, is that intuition doesn't have the location, the home within the brain that uses language. It
It does.
taps into our feelings a lot. And so sometimes one could say, I have a feeling about something.
I get it.
Ergo, I'm feeling intuitive. How do you feel? I feel something here, and that's a road map into my intuition. So how do you then, if you believe in that, and that's maybe the first question. The second question is, if intuition is also a part of our ability, if feeling is also a part of our intuition, how do we divorce ourselves from the good feeling versus the feeling that's just going to turn us into a spiral?
Well, ask Marcus Aurelius. He wrote a lot about that.
Yes.
So,
But what's your point of view, though?
yeah, you haven't
And
asked me.
do you know what I'm talking about in
I
terms
know
of
exactly what you're
intuition
talking about.
can appear to some? I know some people say it appears to you as a voice. You hear it. Others say that it's a physical sensation. Your skin or something. It feels funny. But others feel something emotionally, and that's how they tap into their intuition. So that's why I'm trying to, for those who are out there listening, go, wait a minute, I feel my intuition through feelings. How am I supposed to turn that spigot off based on what Sally just said?
Well, here's the coolest thing. I'm going to go back to biology. And in basic biology, we have a unit of receiving known as our skin suit. It's skin. Then we have the processor, which is the brain. And then we have all the fuses, which people know are calling chakras, right?
Yes.
And through the wisdom of thousands of years, people have noticed that different parts of the body connect more with different areas of life. Like the root is about I belong here, the sacral is about I create here, blah, 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 right? So when people have a gut feeling, that is our emotional center. And thanks to the wonderful thing known as the vagus nerve, which I'm not telling people anything they've never heard of. This is not news. That right there allows us to have a gut-brain connection, and it goes back and forth, and most of the energy travels from the gut north, not the brain south. It's an
Yes.
80-20. So since your guts are mostly water, and water has a vibration, you are picking up on external vibrations, i.e., you've got a radio transmitter in your gut, and you have trained yourself to receive a certain frequency. And when that frequency shows up, your brain goes, ding.
Mm-hmm.
This is one we have to be careful of. And that is the one that every single human has. And to a person who says they have issues with boundaries, I'm going to just add this as an aside, you have learned to ignore that signal.
Interesting, but it makes sense.
Mm-hmm.
What do we do with that?
I don't know.
How
whatever
do you
you
coach
want.
people who have those boundary issues, or they're not? Do you get them back into trusting that intuitive gut warning signal?
I teach them how to get back, because if you have issues with boundaries, a lot of times you are overwhelmed and you're not in your body. So the first thing I do is
Mm.
teach you how to get back to feeling your body, because you have so many feelings. You don't want to be in your body. You don't want to blah, blah, blah. And so the first thing I do is clear out the excess emotions in there and then teach people to notice. You just literally, in fact, I have an autistic client, bless his heart. I am teaching him how to understand what other people are thinking or feeling based on how his own body feels, because he can't recognize it in his brain, but he has a very, very sensitive body, as many autistic people do. They just don't know what the signals mean. So
Mm.
you are translating those signals of your body for your brain. So it's just like you can learn how to read music. Those dots don't mean anything, but people who have perfect pitch, they can see the picture of the note and hear it in their head. So it's that same thing. Our bodies are amazingly wise, and our culture doesn't teach us to use that amazing ability that our bodies have.
How
And
would
it can be
you,
trained and taught.
right? What's your perspective on then how a parent might encourage this in their children?
Well, there's a few books about that. Um, it depends, number one, the age. Preferably before 6, you want to teach this,
Yes.
because
Yeah.
most of us learn to ignore it before age 6. And so when a child is crying, younger than 2, they don't have the verbal skills, and you don't want to ask what you're feeling. You want to ask, where are you feeling it?
Mm.
Where do you feel that? My belly hurts. My heart hurts. You got to tell them the parts of the body. Um, a lot of times, like, I know my heart hurt a lot as a little kid because somebody had hurt my feelings. And that's a wound on your heart. Think about this. Whenever you feel shame, where do you feel it? Right here,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
So that's the best way to talk to your child, is say, not what's wrong, honey. Say, where are your feelings right now? Where in your body? Can you feel where your feelings are? And if they don't know, you can ask them questions. Do you feel an owie here? Do you feel an owie in your belly? Do you feel an owie in your head? Where do you feel it? Because it could be sometimes kids just, and this is, kids can have anxiety. Little kids have a lot of anxiety, and they're in their heads worrying, worrying, and worrying. They're running the hamster wheel.
And then they
You've
become
seen
adults and they ran companies.
it. Yeah, it's hard to turn it off.
Do you sometimes have that same conversation with your clients? Where do you feel it in your body?
No, because I can see it and find it and tell them what it is.
You can see where, quote unquote, the yowie is in them if they give you permission to do so.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Exactly.
And then
I
once
have a
you
funny story for you.
go,
Uh, I was working with a woman who asked if I could heal her son, and it's that was quote unquote heal her son. Her son was having an issue with an incurable um, psoriasis, and the poor baby was only 3, and she had taken him to everywhere. And her husband was a chiropractor, and he was also a bit of a skeptic. And so I invited him to come because I wanted to see the family energy with the baby, because it's
mm,
always the family first, right? And so he's a sweetheart, this bit child. Anyway, Dad was a skeptic, and I said, "You don't believe I can do what I can do?" And he goes, "Mm." And I said, "Well, you're a chiropractor. You know exactly what's going on with your body. Let me tell you." And so I started with his pelvis, and I read off exactly the angles where he was out and what they were: tip forward, back, sideways, because they can go everywhere. And I called him out, each one. And then I called one he had missed. And I said, "Yeah." And each one I got, and I said, "Oh, it's this one, this one, this one, this one," and like that. And he's like, he said, "How do you see that?" I said, "I don't need, well, I could see it. All I needed to do was ask your body, where does it hurt?" And it would tell me. And I specifically asked for the spine. Where's the spine hurting? And I could see where it was. But that's, I think, because being outside your body gives you an enhanced connection with information that a lot of people may not have. And I don't mean leaving your body, I
Right.
mean being able to become a no thing. And this is exactly what Joe
Mm.
Dispenza is talking about. And I know everybody knows about him. He's talking about becoming a no thing.
Right.
Well, I have the gift of becoming a no thing for real. And it makes you very freaking supernatural. I mean, it really does. And then I learned how to do it for other people. And so the changes I do can literally change your DNA. And that child spent 15 minutes with me. His rash went away within 3 days. I mean, it was bad. I don't need to go into his story, but it really was not, it was uncomfortable for everybody. He had to wear socks on his little hands so he wouldn't claw blood.
Oh,
I know, it's bad.
yeah. Yeah.
And so within 3 days, maybe 5. Oh, let's be generous. 10. We'll give it 10 days even. But I know it was a very short time. The rash went away. And then there was a change in the family. New people moved, her brother and his family moved in temporarily, and the rash came back. And so they brought him back in and did a couple more tweaks. And literally within the hour, it disappeared.
So
Within the
what was
hour.
the cause of the rash? You keep
That's a
talking
really
about
good question.
the introduction of people into this child's space. Your work takes place, the rash goes away. Somebody else comes back, the rash comes back. What's going on there?
That's very good noticing. I can see you why you do what you do.
Well,
So this child, like many children, take in unfiltered information. He was receiving everything. We know this. Little kids take in everything. We just talked about that, right?
yeah, yeah,
So, in his ability to take in all this information, mother and father, Italian, emotional, okay? Big emotions. Or this is even worse if you're suppressing your emotions, but they come out in big vibrations. Like I still have a problem with that when people aren't feeling their emotions. I have to feel them, and it's uncomfortable sometimes in
mm,
big groups. Hip openers in yoga class. Wow. Anyway, the but the issue was his little child DNA was attempting to heal all these people. And by attempting to heal all these people, he was hurting himself and processing all this emotional pain himself. And I just changed his rules and his little DNA, and he never did it again. And he's an amazing human being.
So you help the child create boundaries in a sense.
Yeah. He needed a new rule. Your rule is not to take, you are not a human garbage can, sweetheart. And there are a
Right,
lot of people who do that. So many children love their parents so much they want them to feel better. But
right.
we can all raise our hands. We remember that.
Yeah, yeah.
We tried to take on our parents' pain. And that's essentially made an entire industry become very successful. That one urge, human urge.
Yes. So did this child or all of us, you mentioned it was 0 to 6, 0 to 7. I understand that piece, but just some of these tendencies, these gifts, whatever they may be, come into this life from a prior life.
Yes, no, maybe. It's all individual.
Do you believe that's even possible?
Oh, hell yeah.
Okay.
I have a hilarious story about that.
I'm sure you're going to tell me.
I'll make it very brief.
All right.
Um, I used to live in Georgia, and I wanted to leave Georgia so badly, but I just kept moving circles around Atlanta. And I was very into horses, and I would travel all over the state of Georgia with the horses to buy horses, sell horses, show horses, ride horses, whatever. I'm still into horses, but I was driving across a highway that runs across the really backward part of Georgia. I'm not going to say, but
We'll edit
I
that
got to
out.
this point in the it was Georgia 16, and it just runs through very no man's land. And there's a place where there's a Piedmont where it goes up and down and up and down, and it's outside of a town known as Eatonton. It's in Eaton County, southern Eaton County. And if people are listening, they'll know what I'm talking about. So I had this strange knowingness that I was almost home, but I was an hour and a half from where I was supposed to be. I was like, I'm not almost home. And I just got this urge that I'm almost home. And then I downloaded a vision of, how you do. And I was in the cart with the dad coming back from the town where and I made a turn and I drove to the house, which of course was no longer there, but I could see it. And I got the full life download, including his name. And so skeptical me, I'm always going, yeah, sure, bullshit. I'm always calling a bullshit on this, always. I went to Ancestry.com and looked his little happy butt up. And he was there on a Civil War muster roll.
I totally believe that. No.
And it was
no
exactly the town. It was because he sat there and told me I was part of the Eaton County Regulars. I died in 1864. And I got the full download on his life, and it explained so much in my present life.
Yeah, I bet. There's this phrase that you had said before, which I'm just summarizing, but there's so much that our physical bodies can't see and that we take as for granted. You think about when you really get down to the microbiology and you get down to physics, it's really just energy.
Bingo.
There's nothing other than just
Particles
energy.
And waves.
If you keep even further, you might go, there's even nothing there other than just particles and waves. And even the particles is probably just waves and energy. So that's the way the universe works. So you mentioned in your write-up here about what's called quantum alignment coach. That's a mouthful. What is that? I gather it's sort of what we've been talking about, but what is that? Align you from a quantum perspective. Is that right? So I'm thinking physics here. I'm thinking wave theory. Why did you choose that phrase?
Because one of the main instruments of the way I change people, and I'm going to say I change them. I facilitate change in people. Change happens. Let's just call it that. Change happens. It ain't me. It ain't you. It just is. Okay. And one of the main vehicles is something known as disruptive wave action. And we've all seen it in the physical world. That's Newtonian physics, where one wave in the ocean hits the other wave and then suddenly they're both flat.
Right.
And so in order to release I'm going to take that back 2 seconds. Many, many humans store their traumas as standing waves. And I recently noticed that many humans' standing waves are literally stuck in the time when they occurred. So they're not moving forward, which is why people have moving pains in their body, why people have areas of their body that refuse to heal for no damn good reason. And when one understands what the body wants to say about it, and also it's often quite literal, just going to say, like, you are a pain in my neck, that kind of thing. It's often quite literal. When one discovers that and allows the fixed point to become a no thing, an unfixed point, then the body is able to resolve that and create a new reality, which is, again, as we mentioned, Joe Dispenza's work, that's his whole point.
Yeah.
Only I facilitate that in humans very, very quickly.
Fantastic. Really cool. Well, I could talk with you all day. What are you doing tonight for dinner? Come on over. I mean, it's kind of how I feel right now.
Jet in the backyard. It'll take a hot minute to get there from Nashville.
Oh my gosh. Yeah, my mind is sort of flooding with impressions and thoughts. I guess how could people connect with you, Sally?
I have a
learn
web.
more about you.
I
Tell us
do.
about it.
I have it's sallyreid.com. It's really hard to remember, just as my name.
Yeah, you
Dot
ran it
com.
yourself.
And there, you can have ways to connect with me. You can get a what I call a clarity session with me there, and what that is me. You can ask me questions and I'll answer them, or I'll give you. It's a whatever you need. A lot of times when we're doing, it's the sort of the assessment. It's an assessment to let you know, give
Okay.
you the issues, and a lot. It's empowering you, because remember when I said if you don't know what the problem is, it's really hard to change it or fix it,
Mm-hmm.
because most people want to change symptoms instead of what the actual issue is.
100%. You're right.
For example, a lack of boundaries is a symptom, not a
Right.
problem.
Physical disease
Hmm.
and injury as well.
Hmm. Oh, I got a fun story for you. This is a woman I met on an airplane, and we had spent a lovely time, blah, 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 all the way back from Seattle to Nashville, sitting next to each other, drinking together. It was fun, and and there was a guy on the other side listening to us, trying to not pay attention. And just as we heard the landing gear and the plane was in the pattern, she reaches to get something, goes, "Oh, my shoulder." And I'm like, "Oh, what happened? What's wrong with your shoulder?" Because I didn't really, we were just talking. I didn't say, "Well, I can fix you." That's presumptuous of me. And I said, I asked her what happened. And then I asked her, "Well, do you mind if I look, if I'll do what I do for it?" And she says, "No, not at all." And so I found the thing, and literally we are in the pattern. The wheels are going down. You can feel the plane landing. And before the plane landed, we shifted it. And as the landing bumps, she could raise her arm all the way up. She's crying. She says, "I had 3 surgeries. It's been years. We found the held problem." Because in that thing, this is true, it happens a lot, there was a moment in time that was stuck in there. And emotions often keep it stuck. And this emotion was shame, regret, and embarrassment. It was and these are very powerful emotions. They were all together. We found them. I did the thing where it
Mm-hmm.
becomes no thing, and she has perfect movement.
So would you say that's true of all injuries?
No, that's a blanket sent, like there's only one way to do something. It's
No, but
patently false.
do all injuries connote a trapped issue?
Often, yes. Unless, of course,
Often, yes.
no, I'm going to say that's not true. I mean, yes, many injuries. I have an injury in
Can I
my
slip
left.
and fall and break my leg and it be just that? Or do I trip and fall and break my leg and is that basically a setup for a blocked issue that is in some ways trying to bring itself to my attention?
Yes, and a lot of spiritual teachers try to make meaning in everything.
Right, get it. I'm just asking you what your
And
thoughts
just,
are.
just like they say, sometimes a cigar is just a cigar. So,
Sorry, Bill Clinton. I had to say that. No, I get it. I get it.
okay.
That was good. That was good. Nice little levity there. I would. This has been a great discussion. I really appreciate your time and love your work.
Thank you.
I may have to give you a call or get to your website and sign up for one of your sessions. I think this is really fascinating.
Thank you so much for having me on.
Yeah, it's been wonderful. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you for listening to Leadervation with Dean Newlund. If you enjoyed the show, please subscribe, rate, and review on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or wherever you get your podcasts. If you'd like to learn more about Dean or Mission Facilitators Leadership, go to mfileadership.com. That's mfileadership.com or check the show notes. Reimagine, facilitate, flourish. Transform your leadership success with Leadervation.